Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill. Sunday afternoon, it becomes official. DeShaun Foster out at UCLA, and we got a laundry list of conversations to get into. Like, number one, I think the most important conversation, coaching candidates that we think make the most sense for UCLA. Dill, here's the other conversation. How good of a head coaching job is this? Because me and you've talked about this a lot over the last couple of years. You look at UCLA and say, one, California, ton of high school talent. Number two, transition into the Big Ten. We're looking at this program and say, you get the right man running this program, there is some potential juice that you can have with this football program over the next couple of years, but you got to get the right guy running the show. And DeShaun Foster, and number one, UCLA kind of forced to go out and get DeShaun Foster with how Chip Kelly, not go out and get, but kind of elevate DeShaun Foster to their head coach. It was a hire that you kind of had to make. The problem, or at least my interpretation of what went wrong, is like, he's never been a coordinator before. He's never been a head coach before. You hired DeShaun Foster to bring some juice into the locker room, but also around the program. That juice never really seemed to take place. And I think that's where things got a little dicey with DeShaun Foster. Obviously, the Nico situation, no doubt playing a role as well. Dill, I want to talk coaching candidates before we do. And as always, the UCLA fans appreciate you guys. And hey, more importantly, let it fly in the comment section. We're going to be talking a lot about this head coaching search over the next couple of weeks and months. And the candidates that you guys put in the comment section probably going to be the candidates that we talk about over the next couple of weeks and months. So let it rip. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, I'll put you on the spot here. How good of a job do you think this UCLA program is?
I think it's quite a good job. I mean, it's a wealthy school. They should be able to compete financially if you get a guy who kind of mobilizes that base. And Ron Foster, it didn't feel like he totally got out there. And you said like there was some buzz in UCLA. I don't know. Was there a ton of buzz? Like his personality isn't wildly charismatic, and that's not like good or bad. It definitely didn't bring a ton of energy to that program. Seats were still pretty empty. They just it didn't mobilize that fan base. But I'm for my money, if you get an energetic coach who can mobilize it, this is a school that, especially moving into the Big Ten, that is a world of difference. Virginia Tech's job just opened up. I mean, UCLA is miles ahead of Virginia Tech as a job.
I think so too.
It's the Big Ten.
And also like the talent that you have exposure to. And for DeShaun Foster, you're right. He might have been a charismatic coach, like in the locker room, but when it came to like public relations or meeting with donors, like you got to real quick. I mean, I think we all remember, and I'm not trying to drag DeShaun Foster or anything, that opening statement that he made at Big Ten Media Days, you kind of got the sense, whoa, like that. I know it's just like a little bit of a speech, but that's not how a head coach should be presenting. And then you kind of get concerned about like, well, how does he talk to the donors and how does he talk to other people involved with getting this UCLA program where it belongs? Because when you're running a program like UCLA, it's a lot more than just coaching X's and O's, and a lot's more than just running a locker room. You got a lot of responsibilities on your plate, and I think it was a little much for a guy that like never has run a program before, but's never even called plays before, which gets us into the next conversation, Dill. Best coaching candidates for UCLA, Dill. And look, I don't even know if this athletic director, the admin there is going to make this hire, because I know the UCLA fans aren't very happy with what's been going on with the athletic department in general. You're the athletic director. You got control of this program. Who is your first call that you are making for the next head coach at UCLA?
I think it's got to be Tony White. I mean, I see what Tony White's done going into Florida State, revamping that defense. Not even a ton of different talent. Like, they definitely injected some portal talent for sure, but just getting the guys around that program playing with more energy, playing a lot harder. He's a UCLA guy. I know DeShaun Foster was too, but I think his experience now being a defensive coordinator in running defense at two big programs in Nebraska and Florida State, that to me is kind of what I'm looking for. I don't know that you can poach a great sitting head coach, frankly. Like, if you could go out and grab a Brett Bielema or a Kurt Cignetti, frankly, I think UCLA is a better job than both those jobs. If it's coming, you'd probably do that first. I'm not sure that's as feasible. Tony White's probably my first call.
Kurt Cignetti, Like that's worth a phone call at the very least, right?
Because
I
UCLA, it's got to be a better job, I think, for football than Indiana. Indiana, no talent around it, not a
yeah,
particularly wealthy school. UCLA, kind of the opposite, a lot of talent in a really wealthy
money.
school with some history. So I think it's a better job. Signetti's in a good spot, and that athletic
Yeah.
department supports him, which is probably the tough part to pull him
Yep.
away. But he's probably got a better chance to win a national title at UCLA than he does at Indiana.
I think that's fair. Would Kursignetti take the job right now with what he's got going on at Indiana and where UCLA currently is? I'm not sure. Look, if UCLA goes out, and I'm not trying to get too far away from Tony White because I got some thoughts on Tony White too. Real quick on Kurt Signetti, if you could convince him that if you get Kurt Signetti to come to UCLA, what that's telling me is UCLA is going all in to build this program, right? Because he's getting a lot of support at Indiana. He's retaining guys, he's getting NIL money. All right, Tony White though makes a ton of
Nettie
sense.
and Bielma are the two sitting head coaches that if you can grab either of them, I think those are the two I'd be going after.
Yeah, I think
And
that
who
could make
look
sense.
like realistic coaches, I think that would take it.
All right, Tony White. Tony White. I want to circle back real quick because one of the things that I'm looking at here is can you recruit the state, right? I think that's an important conversation because when you close your eyes and you envision UCLA as a top 15 team in the country, maximizing what this program can be, you have to compete in the state of California. Going to be difficult because you make no mistake about it. USC's been doing a really good job with Chad Bowden coming in and recruiting that state. But if UCLA wants to get to where I think they can maybe get to as a program, you have to recruit the state of California, which I think makes it important for your head coach at least having some experience out on the West Coast. You know, you look at a guy like John Summerall, like I believe he's from Huntsville, Alabama, has never really coached out of the Southeast United States. Would John Summerall make a ton of sense at UCLA? Look, I think he's a great ball coach. I think it would be a decent hire. Would it make a ton of sense for UCLA? I'm not sure. Tony White would, man. And you said it best about Tony White. It's not only the X's and O's from him. Like he came to Florida State, took over a defense that legitimately just was not trying at times in 2024. And all of a sudden, this defense is flying around making plays. It was the culture change that you saw this Florida State defense have. And I give Tony White a lot of credit. I think that one would make a lot of sense. I'll go to another. How important do you think it is to get a guy that's been a head coach?
Not crucial because I was thinking like Blake Baker and Colin Klein are two guys that I wouldn't be opposed
Wow.
to
What about,
reaching out to.
hey,
I think guys who are at big programs and are part of like kind of the new regimes, if you will, or turning something around. That's probably what I'm looking for. So those like I look at Blake Baker, what he was able to do turning around that defense. I look at Colin Klein kind of coming in with Mike Elko from the ground up. I don't mind going after that type of coordinator.
I got a dynamite one then for you. How about Will Stein at Oregon? I mean, he's got experience now on
Dan
the
Lynn
West
at
Coast.
USC.
What'd you say?
So Dan Lynn at USC.
Shoot, that's not bad either. Yeah, I mean, and here's another coordinator that I think would make some sense. At least I like a lot, and this one would be risky because he's really young, Ben Arbuckle.
I was thinking that he is young, but he's
But
got
look what he's done. Look at the swagger that he's brought to this Oklahoma program, right? Like Brent Venables, that offense like dead in the water last year. You're bringing John Mateer, you're bringing Ben Arbuckle, and Dill. I think when you can get a head coach that you know can run an offense like that, that certainly takes some pressure off the. At least it kind of helps you acclimate really quick, and you can score some
Well,
points early.
and you have something like you can get to. Like, what was DeShaun Foster going to be able to get to at UCLA? It's like he
Nothing.
hadn't, like, as just a pure coach, probably proven himself in the way
No.
that some of these other names have.
Yeah.
And, like, he would have needed to really kill it on his coordinator hires.
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure that obviously happened, along
Yep.
with the fact that they just didn't have good enough players. But you have, like, if you can call one side of the ball at a really
Yeah.
high level, I think you have a built-in advantage, at least for a couple of years. Because you probably don't want your head coach having to be that guy forever. But to get the thing rolling, I think
It allows you to get the ball rolling, start winning games, and that's what matters the most at UCLA. Like we just need some buzz, we need some momentum around this program. I got another one. What about Alex Golish at USF.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
another one that I love how the thing with Alex Golesh is, yeah, he can call an offense. I think he's made a really good hire on the defensive side of the football too. But what I also love is how he's built this roster. Like he's just leaning into athletic profiles. USF had one of the worst rosters in the country when he took over. And all of a sudden it's like, all right, we're still not quite we're pretty much like we got good athletic profiles. I love how he built the roster. I think
He's
Alex,
putting a really talented team together. I think maximizing what that USF team can be
yeah,
from just a pure talent standpoint, because they have a bunch of good players on that team, and they're clearly doing a good job of identifying guys that either like kind of filter out of the big schools or coming up from the smaller schools. There's something that's working because like talent wise, they're not so far off from some teams that have far more in terms of resources and other things.
agreed. All right, I got two veteran coaches that I'll throw at you that both have expressed interest in getting back into coaching, especially at the college level.
I think I got
Number
one.
one, what?
Jimbo?
Yep. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah,
Why?
if Jimbo would say yes, I would take him in a heartbeat.
Jimbo ain't got
Don't,
another
don't,
options.
don't forget what he did at FSU. That's probably what I'd question you. I know A&M didn't exactly work out. And again, they were not like a horrible team. That's a little bit revisionist history. They were just kind of middling, and he
Yeah,
clearly wasn't getting the best out of that A&M team.
yeah,
He did have like one of the best teams in college football history in that Jameis Winston-led
yep,
championship. They were
yep.
loaded, and I think he'd do a fine job at UCLA.
What about John Gruden? He's also expressed interest.
I don't even know. Like
That'd be
he's
a
a
weird
tough one.
fit too.
I'd probably want a college guy. I think at this
Sure.
point, given what we just went through with DeShaun Foster, probably would lean towards somebody who I think can maximize what the college program can be, not just like an X's and O's guy.
Any other names that you want to throw out there before we wrap this sucker up?
Brian Hartline's one I feel like we've kicked
Oh
around.
my God. Let's
Brian
talk about that.
Hartline is one of those coordinators that
It's a great one.
I don't think he's ever going to like advance through this Ohio State program at this point. Like he's been up and down at the OC job, and then
Yeah.
they gave him the chip. He's a really good recruiter. Now, my one issue is I don't think he's a great offensive coordinator and a great offensive mind. Well, I think it would help. I think like when I compare him to Blake Baker, I'd probably prefer like a Blake Baker's mind for football a little bit more than probably Brian Hartline. But you'll have a talented roster, no doubt about it.
But is that not where it starts at UCLA, in my opinion? Because that's what intrigues me the most about UCLA in general, right? Is that there's the opportunity to get talent on this roster. And if you get talent on this roster, then you can start attracting better coaches. So when Brian Hartline's trying to sign guys around him, who's going to call plays on offense, who's going to play calls on defense, all of a sudden, like you're looking at UCLA and saying, yeah, wouldn't mind it. I think that'd be a fun one too. And when you're going to go the coordinator or assistant coach route, I prefer getting guys that have done it behind greats, right? And as a Michigan fan, it pains me to say it, but Ryan Day runs that program exceptionally well. So he knows what it looks like. He knows what the infrastructure looks like of a program that's being run the right way.
That is why I kind of like the idea of guys who have kind of built up with it. Like I feel like to me, Colin Klein, and he might be a little early in his tenure, but like building up that Texas A&M program, kind of building it back, had a really good win yesterday against Notre Dame.
Yeah, sure.
Tony White, kind of the same thing, like rebuilding Nebraska and then just pulling FSU out of a ditch. That's why I really like some of those coordinators. Blake Baker, kind of same way with what he's done with the defense. That'd be my lean for a coordinator, not somebody like Brian Hartline. My one issue is he's never really had much adversity in terms of like what he's dealt with at Ohio State. It's always just been really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd be a fun one because I think you'd be able to attract some really good receivers at the bare minimum. I do question kind of everything else probably outside of that for Hartline.
Brian Hartline was an interesting one. This will be very interesting to monitor the names that get buzz around them, because what it will tell you is how serious UCLA is about getting this program right. You know what I mean? Because I do think they can cast a wider net than many of the public thinks. I think this is a more attractive job than much of the public thinks. The reason you can make it attractive, is you gotta, when you're going through this hiring process, you almost have to sell UCLA to these head coaches, or these potential head coaches and say, hey, you come to UCLA, you're going to get the resources necessary to maximize what this program can be.
Especially if you're going to take like a Baker or a Tony White, because those guys are kind of like starting to get in line, I think,
Yeah,
for
Will
like
Stein.
Auburn happens to open up. Will Stein, same thing. If like a
Yep.
big job opens up,
Yeah.
those guys are starting to be, I feel like, the guys up. So UCLA needs to show that they're going to be committed in the way that a UC or a Texas or a Texas A&M or a Florida
Yeah.
State.
That's another interesting storyline here is how fast does this hiring process go? Because you're kind of looking at it and saying there could be some competition here. Like if you were to have gotten rid of DeShaun Foster at this point last year, like there was nobody else was really trying to hire head coaches. You could be competing with candidates at Florida potentially. Well, I don't know though, because Oklahoma's winning, so Brent Venables might be safe. Hugh Freeze might be safe, but you're looking at Florida with Billy Napier and probably being that might maybe Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. We'll see. It's going to be fun. I think this program can, again, get the right guy. Watch where this UCLA program can go. And I'm interested to see what kind of names they decide to focus on in terms of what kind of coaches. We'll close it out. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.